Hi guys, it's Steffi from the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel and welcome to another book haul revisited. For those of you who are new to my channel, book haul revisited is where I look back at the past 12 months and the books that I brought into my life, into my apartment, and I try and read anything that is still sitting unread on my shelves. I'm going to apologize, I'm going to be really brief in going through this video because I actually filmed the whole thing and then my camera died and did not save what I'd filmed, and it's very frustrating and I'm sort of losing my voice. So bear with me, I'm going to try and get through this as quickly and as painlessly as possible. For those who are curious, I have no problem with purchasing books. I love purchasing books. Books make me happy. And I use my own money for the most part to do that. I do receive some review copies, but I don't receive piles and piles of them. The purpose of the Book Haul Revisited series is really to keep me accountable for the books that I'm reading, because while I have no issue with bringing books in, I also don't like books sitting around for a long time. I'm buying them for a reason, I want to read them, and this keeps me accountable. So with that out of the way, I'm going to jump straight into it. This is my Book Haul Revisited for March and April 2018. I had no books that I unhauled unread this month, which was awesome. I do have 5 books that I read and unhauled, 11 books that I read and kept, and 4 books that I have yet to read, which will form the basis of my TBR for March and April this year. The 5 books that I read and unhauled include Mun by Jessie Andrews, The Neighborhood, I think the author's surname was Vargas, I have forgotten, so my apologies for that. It was a South American political thriller story. Mun and The Neighborhood were also review copies from Alan Unwin. To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo, which is a young adult fantasy book. Into the Night by Sarah Bailey, which was also a review copy, but I had multiple copies of it. And Obsidio by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, which was an extra copy that I had that I gifted to a friend. So now on to the 11 books that I read and kept. Defy the Worlds by Claudia Gray. This is book 2 in the series that started with Defy the Stars. I really enjoy this series. I like Claudia Gray's writing style. It is a young adult science fiction series. It follows a teenage girl and one of the most advanced robots ever created, and how they sort of navigate not only space, but also relationships and their place within the universe. The Bells by Donielle Clayton is a young adult fantasy series that looks at beauty and a society where beauty is valued to the point that people are appointed to bestow it upon other people as a form of rank and privilege. Playboy Pilot by Penelope Warden by Keeland is a romance book that follows a young woman who is trying to run from her family and her obligations and ends up spending about a week with a pilot. And this is really sort of all of the adventures and the romantic relationship that develops between the two of them. One Way by S.J. Morden is a science fiction thriller story set on Mars. It has been decided to send convicts up onto Mars to start building the colonies, because if something goes wrong, then they're the people that society would not necessarily miss as much, which sounds terrible when you say it out loud, but that's the premise of the book. And once the convicts get onto Mars, things do start going wrong and people start dying, and that's where the thriller element kicks in. The Pharmacist's Wife by Vanessa Tate was also a review copy that I received, and this one I requested purely based off the cover. It happens to be a historical thriller-ish type book, and you know those are not always my favourite, particularly when historical fiction is involved, but this follows the story of a man who uses his wife in his experiments with the drug heroin, and it's not good, but the book's good. But the outcome of his experimentation is not good. Someone Like You by Carly Lane was also a review copy. This is Australian contemporary fiction set in a small country town, and these books are just like my therapy. I love reading any of Carly Lane's books because they just make me so happy. Obsidio by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is my signed personalized edition, which I love, and I enjoy this series. It is a Love Oswaye science fiction series, and this is the 3rd and final book in the Illuminate files. It was a smashing end to a wonderful series, and I will be rereading this at some point this year. Neverland by Margot McGovern is a Love Oswaye dark contemporary book, I would say. It follows a girl as she returns to her family home on an island that she has called Neverland, but her family home has since been turned into a school/institution for teens with very severe problems, and while she's there, she's forced to confront some very traumatic things that happened to her during her childhood. Similarly, Small Spaces by Sarah Epstein also is a Love Oswaye, but this one is a psychological thriller, and this one deals with Tash, who has to deal with the repercussions of something that happened to her in her childhood involving her imaginary friend. This one is really creepy. I don't recommend reading it really late at night. Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. This is the 2nd book in the Red Rising trilogy, or the 1st trilogy, and yeah, it was okay. I read it. I still don't get the hype around this series, so I don't really have much more to say over that. There's a couple of characters that I really like, but none of them that we spend enough time with. Star Wars Crucible by Troy Denning. I think this was one of the last books in what is now the Legends canon. So the old book series. So it's sort of the last adventure of Han, Leia, and Luke. It was okay. I like spending time with them as characters, but the book itself and the storyline was not my favorite. Which brings me to the 4 books that I have not yet read. First one is Gunslinger Girl by Lindsay Eli, which is part of the James Patterson Presents line. This is young adult Western, possibly fantasy book, and I'm very eager to read this. I'm very curious about it. I also have The Gospel of Loki by Joanne M. Harris. I believe this is like a prequel to her Rune Marks series. One of my girlfriends has recently read this plus the first book in the series and told me to read it now, and then I'll be borrowing the first book from her because I have the second book in the series. But I am very eager to pick this up and just read someone else's take on Loki. Morning Star by Pierce Brown, which is book 3 in the Red Rising trilogy. Yeah, I'm not overly thrilled that this is still on my TBR, but I will read it, I will see it out, and I don't foresee that I will be continuing with Pierce Brown's work at the moment, particularly anything set in this universe. I'm just not clicking with it. And I also have Ice Walls by Amy Kaufman, which is her foray into middle grade fantasy, and I will be reading this as part of middle grade March anyway, so this will definitely get read, and I'm looking forward to it. And then because I've got 4 books on my TBR, I thought I would just throw in my reread for my TBR into this video because I'm not filming a separate TBR video because it clearly worked so well last month. My reread for this month is Caraval, which is perfect because I wanted to reread Caraval and Legendary before finale comes out because I do actually enjoy the series and I do want to reread it and just wrap my head around a few things. So that is everything that I read, unhauled, kept, haven't read from 12 months ago. If you follow along with my weekly Books Beside My Bed videos, you'll see when I get through the last 4 books in this series. And yeah, I hope that you enjoy this video. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're having a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys.